everyone, and welcome to my contribution to Justine Hovey's 50 Cards for 50K Celebration blog hop. This is an inspirational hop showcasing techniques from many wonderful card makers. Over 50 examples in all. And to add to the celebration, there'll be 5 $50 prizes to be given away. So dig in, be inspired, and be sure to comment to be entered in the drawings. The more you watch and comment, the more chances you have to win. For the hop, we were challenged to showcase our favorite technique, and mine hands down is what I like to call dimensioneering. I love popping things up, creating scenes, and bringing the stamps to life. And today I'll do so primarily using these die cuts and some of the new paper and stamps from the newest Lawn Fawn release. We will start off with a super cute and easy card and end with a fun pop-up scene that's so cute I can't even put it in words. Along with the new release items, I'll be using these 2 sets from my stash to create a fun tree canopy to frame each of my cards. To create the first card, I die cut 2 of the tree panels and 3 of the largest stitched frame from white cardstock, and 1 more large stitched frame from this chevron pattern paper from the Snow Day Remix paper pack. I also die cut 2 trees out of the darkest color in the Neutrals Wood Grain paper pack from Lawn Fawn. I'll explain why I just cut out the trees in a moment. Now that I have all of these layers cut, I use my dotted tape runner to add them one over the other, starting with the stitched frames, then the trees with one going one way and then the other one flipped to go the opposite direction, creating our canopy, and finally over that the red frame. And now we come to the reason for the just die cutting the trees rather than the entire frame. Simply put, I didn't want to waste this beautiful embossed paper if it wasn't going to be visible. Lining these up over the white trees worked like a charm though. The only issue was that I repurposed these trees from an earlier card that didn't turn out as I had hoped. There was some white showing at the edges, which I quickly took care of with a little Copic coloring. Once the frame was complete, I took this cute paper from the Snow Day Remix paper pack. It's one of those papers that I didn't want to cut up, and I wanted to show off the scene. I applied dotted tape runner to the back of the frame and then positioned it over the scene, placing it down and adhering it when I was happy with the look, and then trimming off the excess with my scissors. To add a snowy shine to the ground in my scene, I added a small amount of Nuvo Glimmer Paste to the bottom of the panel and some of the branches of the tree. Now, all that was left was attaching this panel to a card base and stamping a sentiment on the front and inside of this card. I chose a sentiment from the Mice on Ice stamp set. I'll also be using this stamp set in the next card. So stay tuned. I started off the next card by using these markers to color 3 of the mice from the Mice on Ice stamp set, and then I cut out each of the mice using the coordinating dies, as well as a blank of each of the mice. In order to save time, I skipped the coloring, but suffice it to say this was quick and easy, with little to no blending. One of the best things about coloring such small images, I think you'll agree. Next, I attached each mouse to a little strip of acetate that was no wider than the mouse and about twice the length of said mouse. Before attaching them, I folded them in half to create a kind of little stand for each of my mice. This small thing really brings these mice to life. I then attached the blank mouse to the back to give it a nice finished clean look and set the mice aside when I was done with all 3. Last year I did a video that had actual people skaters in a park. I'll link to it in the description below this video so you can check it out. Next, we need to create 2 little houses using the new Build-A-House die set and its Christmas add-on set from Lawn Fawn. I have already made one, and here's the second one. These go together super quick and easy. I say that all the time, don't I? Well, it's true. And I can think of a lot of ways to use them. Little easel cards, magnets, tags, and more. I changed mine up by paper piecing a blue door with yellow shining through the windows and sparkly blue lights with black and silver wires. Not to mention this fun shiny paper for the roof to make it look like it's a little icy up there. I added some extra embellishments to one of the houses to change it up a bit as well, so they look different. Now I have all my pieces ready to build the scene in the card. I will add a 5.5-inch square card base out of this pretty shiny turquoise paper, and we'll add a center pop-up element that is a great beginner pop-up element. To create the pop-up element, I start with a piece of 5.5 by 12-inch cardstock so that I'd have a little extra wiggle room as I was designing this card from scratch. Now, you may not have a 5.5-inch by 12-inch piece of white cardstock. That's not as easy to come by. And you really don't need it. You can actually use just a 5.5-inch by 11-inch piece of cardstock. And you score that at 4.5 inches, 5.5 inches, and 6.5 inches on the 11-inch side. The only reason I used 12 inches is I was in the process of designing the card and I wasn't sure how much I would want hanging over. I was thinking about if I would do a border, things like that. So I just wanted a little extra room. So for the purposes of this video, just imagine that I'm using an 11-inch long piece of cardstock and I'm not trimming it with scissors when you see me trimming it with scissors. So anyway, that said, now that the white paper's scored, you do a valley fold at the 4.5-inch mark, a mountain fold at the 5.5-inch mark, and another valley at the 6.5-inch mark. And you fold and crease accordingly. So it looks like this. Now I take the card base and make little notches, an inch from the center on all four sides. I'll use these notches to line up my pop-up element when I'm adhering it. To attach the pop-up element to the card base, I did one side and then the other. I folded the center piece and added adhesive to the exposed side and placed it in the card, lining it up at the two notches on that side of the card. When I was sure everything was lined up perfectly, I pressed it all down with my bone folder. I then closed the center piece back up and applied adhesive all over the other side and repeated this process, just double checking to make sure it lined up with the notches on the other side as well. After I was sure everything was lined up, I again pressed it all down with my bone folder. And there you have it, a quick and easy pop-up element. I decorated the outside of the card with one of the houses on what I like to call a Polaroid mat. The white frame measures 5.25 inches square, and the pattern paper is just the center of the frame I cut for the tree panel inside the card. It measures 5 by 3.75 inches. I adhere it to the top section of the white mat so as to give a kind of Polaroid picture look, and then add the house popped up on foam tape. I'll be adding the sentiment a little later. Stay tuned for the pics at the end so you can see it. Next, I add this 5.5-inch by 4.5-inch piece of pattern paper background to the inside of the card. Attach the tree canopy frame to the front of the step with some good strong glue, and then I cover the bottom of the frame with part of a white frame so it blends in with the step. I thought about this after I put the initial frame on, and I was like, oh, wait a second here, it's white. And so I just cut a frame out and then snipped off the top of it to add this. I then add the other house to the center of the trees, again adhering it to the front of the step. I'm careful to make sure that any glue that spills out is cleaned up so that the card isn't glued shut when it's closed. To create my iced over lake, I take a piece of the pearlescent vellum that was also a part of Lawn Fawn's latest release. I start off with a piece that measures 5.5 inches wide by 4.5 inches tall, and then tear one of the 5.5-inch sides off and apply liquid adhesive around the perimeter of the piece and line it up and attach it to the card. I like how a little bit of the edge sticks up Again, adding a little bit of dimension. I kind of think this is a freebie because I didn't even think of this. It just worked that way. Now it's time to add my little critters. Now I also die cut some of the swirls out of some silver glitter cardstock. I figured out how I wanted everything situated, and then after adding the swirls with dotted tape runner, I added the mice using liquid adhesive on the bottom part of the little acetate stands. After they were adhered down, I cleaned up any extra glue again to make sure that I don't have a glued shut card when I'm done. I added some glimmer paste as a final touch to the ground around the lake, which again gives a kind of snowy look to the scene. And now my biggest challenge of all. The front of the card was quite heavy, and it was important that this card would be able to stay open on someone's shelf or desks, so I went about figuring out how I could make that happen. Well, there was a little more fuss than I had hoped, but I'm pretty happy with my solution, and we'll use it again in the future. Here's what I did. I took 2 strips of acetate that measured 1 1/4 inches wide and 11 inches long, and scored them both at a 1/2 inch and 6 1/4 inches. I then had to lift the inside backdrop panel away from the card. Thankfully, I used dotted tape runner, which made this very easy. I then placed one of the strips about a 1/2 inch from the left side of the card and the other a 1/2 inch from the right side of the card, lining up the 1/2 inch score line with the edge. I applied additional adhesive to attach the panels back together. I then took a piece of the turquoise cardstock that measures 5 1/2 inches wide by 3 inches tall and applied 1/8 inch score tape. You could also use 1/4 inch if you don't have 1/8 inch to both of the short sides and the center to create a sleeve that the acetate strips can be placed in to keep the card open and even closed. I'll include some simple instructions for the recipient so that they can display the card easily. Now, isn't this adorable? I want to make a whole town of these little mice skating around. I think it'd be really fun. If you want to learn more techniques, be sure to follow this hop, and also check out the description below for a link to Justine's Technique Resource Binder class. It's sure to be full of wonderful ideas and inspiration for your card making. I hope you enjoyed my cards today. Please let me know what you think in the description below. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I'd love to have you as a new subscriber. So feel free to hit the subscriber button and click the notifications bell so you don't miss any future uploads. Thank you so much again for joining me today. See you next time.